Okay, so today we are going to, or I am going to show you how to take some of those textures that you practiced with and the stamping techniques that you used and apply it to a simple cuff bracelet. So you're all going to be getting a small piece of copper 20 gauge sheet metal that's already been cut to about 6 by a half an inch. Now for some of you this might be a little bit small, but you can do a lot of texturing and stretch it out or make it for somebody who has a smaller wrist. So here I'm just showing you that you can use the nail set punch on the back side. You can flip it around and have the back side of the texture showing. So you could actually texture the back side of your bracelet with the nail set and create a raised bumpy surface, which could be kind of cool on the front side. So that's what I'm explaining here. So I've already stamped in what if, which is a fun kind of sentiment that I really like as a teacher. I really love hearing students say that or ask that, what if I do this, or what if I try that, or what would happen if. So anyway, that's just one of my little favorite things. So I put that in the center, sort of in the center, I tried. And then I'm going to think about what I want to do around that area. So for this design, I'm going to kind of keep it simple. I'm going to, you definitely want to texture around your message, by the way, whether it's a word or a quote or something. You want to texture around it because it's going to give you strength in the metal. It's actually going to compress the molecules of the metal together, and it's going to make the metal harder and stiffer, so that it won't be quite as bendy, which is good. It'll make it springier and more durable as a cuff. So you definitely want to figure out what kind of texture you want to do. So do your experimenting first and then think about it. I'm using a Sharpie marker here to just make some marks, guidelines in terms of direction, so I can see what it might look like, and as I'm hammering I can kind of use it as a rough outline. So I'm just starting to make some radial marks and that kind of radiate out from my design. Again, your design is going to be very different from mine. I'm just doing this, I thought it might be kind of fun. So I'm just using the marker, and again, marker comes off with steel wool later, so that's not a problem. So you can draw as much as you want. You can erase it with steel wool if it's not the way you like it. So feel free to use a marker or just to go ahead and texture. Again, I'm working on top of a sandbag and a steel block, and that will give you a good surface. So I'm going for these little horizontal marks, and for this I'm going to be using my riveting hammer, the cross peen hammer end, the cross peen side, and that will give me some sort of little horizontal marks like this, like little dashes or something. You could use the uppercase I for something like this too. In the classroom we have one that has a straight line, which would work really nicely and actually even better than this. But I just have a cross peen at home that I'm going to work with. So again, remember when you're hammering to hammer with your elbow, flexing rather than your wrist. You don't want to stress your wrist. So it's just kind of and let the weight of the hammer or the tool come down approximately where you want it to go. So I'm using my hand, my left hand, to turn the metal, and I'm using my right hand to strike the copper in overlapping blows, and just kind of using the marker as a rough guide. It's hard to get it exactly where you want it when you're not using a stamp tool. When you're stamping, you can be a little more precise. Hammering's a little bit less precise. So I'm going to actually speed this part up so you can see what happens when I'm finished. So once you're satisfied with the way your textures look, you can patina it. I'm using a Sharpie marker here, which you are welcome to use in the classroom. It works pretty well. Or you can use the black-brown patina that we have in a solution over by the windowsill on the shelf. And it's in a bottle that looks like blue liquid, and it says it says black brown patina on it. And you paint that on with a paintbrush similar to where I'm putting the Sharpie marker. And you would just wipe off the extra with a paper towel, and then you would steel wool it, just like I'm going to show you with the Sharpie marker. And it does the same thing. It just highlights all those recessed areas and makes your design show up really nicely and makes your textures pop really nicely. So here I'm just letting the Sharpie dry for a minute, and then setting up to steel wool. And I'm going to steel wool on top of a piece of paper in this situation. At school, if you can please do all of your steel wooling in the white tray in the back of the room by the vices. That will keep all of the little nasty dust and mess from steel wool. Steel wool is awesome in jewelry and metalsmithing. It's really great. It polishes up your metal nicely. It also cleans off things like Sharpie marker or things like that. But it will make a big mess. So keep it in the tray. That way all the little crumbs and dust will be in there. Try not to blow it around or breathe in or inhale any of the dust. Okay, and periodically we can empty the tray. So here I'm just going to show you just pushing really hard down into the tray or onto this piece of paper in my case, just pressing hard back and forth. You'll really shine up the surface of the metal, and again, the recessed areas will remain nice and dark. By using the steel wool, it puts on kind of a nice satin finish to your work. It makes it fairly shiny. And another option would be to put it in the tumbler, which we'll work with another day. So the next thing you want to do, once you're satisfied with the way everything looks, you want to start thinking about how it's going to fit around your wrist, okay? And at this point, you will want to use the Bracelet Mandrel. The Bracelet Mandrel is a cylindrical shaped steel tool, which is located in the mandrel drawer. It's large, it's heavy, be careful not to drop it. But it's shaped like your forearm, so it's tapered. And you want to start off with a smaller end. And you can literally just place it over the bracelet mandrel and bend it with your fingers. And then you can bend it further with the rawhide mallet. In my case, here at my home studio, I do not have my bracelet mandrel here. So I'm going to be using and improvising with some other tools that I have here that will work, almost as well. So here I'm just using a cylinder, which is a spool, an old spool that does not have any wire on it right now. So I can just kind of bend that around just to get the general shape. Your arm is really oval, not round and totally cylindrical that way. So, so I'm going to use a few different tools to kind of bend that into more of that ovally type of a shape. So here you can see it's starting to fit a little bit. It's curving nicely. Next, I'm going to use a bracelet mandrel. Now, this is a mini version of the bracelet mandrel. So again, if you have access to the bracelet mandrel, if it's available, use it. If not, sometimes you can improvise just as well. So I'm just gently bending this to give it a soft curve, moving my metal a little bit, bending a little bit. And I'm really just using my fingers right now. You can also use a rawhide mallet to tap and shape the metal gently, and you definitely can use that a little bit more easily on the bracelet mandrel, but I'm just showing you here how you can just kind of tap it around there to get it a little bit more pressed nicely against the mandrel, which will shape it a little bit better. I'm going to continue to use my fingers to kind of shape it, and then I'll start to test out the shape on my wrist and see what else I need to do to it. Okay, so you can see it's starting to look like a cuff. So you can check out the shape, bend it, go by eye wherever you need to, and then check the fit on your wrist. It should slide through the narrow part of your wrist and pop on pretty nicely. It shouldn't be so open in the back that it falls off, so you can bend it a little bit closer together. Squeeze it gently. And you should have about an inch or a little less between the ends of the bracelet. Now, for some of you, these bracelets might be, if you have a larger wrist size, you might need to later on add a little extension to this. And I can show you in class when we start soldering how to solder on an extra little piece of metal to make it longer. Or you can simply just give it to somebody with a smaller wrist. So really that's up to you. But that's the finished bracelet, and that's how it can look. And again, yours is going to look really different. So I'm excited to see all the different variations that you come up with. So have fun making your cuff bracelet, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.